Yesterday, we watched 12 remarkable semi-finalists present their best ideas to prepare travel for its Infinity.O future. Even though it was very close, 3 finalists, Indie, RunGo, and Thrust Carbon, eventually pulled ahead to make it here today, the grand finals of the WiT Startup Pitch. In this round of the pitch, there will be no Q&A component, so startups will only have their own 4 minutes to convince the judges that they are the startup for this moment in travel. At the end of 4 minutes, they will hear this bell, and we'll move on to the next startup. After 2 days of pitch prep and dialing in from all over the world, I'm sure the startups are eager to get this going. So let's not keep them waiting anymore. Our first finalist is Indie, and I'm happy to welcome Janice Souza back on screen. Janice, the ballroom is yours.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me back. I'm Janice, and I'm the co-founder of Indie. We are leveraging the tools of e-commerce to build Shopify for travel entrepreneurs. Next slide, please. Many years ago, my first job was actually as a tour guide in front of the Coliseum. In those days, it was entirely offline and a cash-only business, lira, in fact. Fast forward to today, and there's still considerable problems, some of the same problems I faced many years ago. Tour hosts and creators have to piece together an average of 11 tools just to market a tour, let alone transact it or sell it. You can imagine the mess of double bookings, lost revenues, and poor customer experience these entrepreneurs have to navigate. Next slide, please. Meet Indie. We are building Shopify for these travel entrepreneurs, taking all those disparate tools and combining them into one simple stack. We help them find customers, manage their incomes, sell to, engage with their users. Next slide, please. Our first in-market product is for tour guides specifically. We enable them with smart calendar syncing, so no more double or missed bookings. We provide discoverability with exclusive sales channels, intelligent pricing models, and centralized payments. Next slide, please. Our users are both established hosts, that guide in Berlin delivering the graffiti tour, as well as creators on adjacent platforms like YouTube, Patreon, or Substack who are perhaps new to travel. For both, we connect their tours to the rest of their business with integrations to both TripAdvisor and Shopify, and help them increase their revenues with our price benchmarking tool. For those entrepreneurs newer to travel, we help them create travel products, adding new revenue streams to their existing businesses. Next slide, please. Our business model connects our creator supply to demand partners like hotels, airlines, cruise, and OTAs. In turn, those demand partners ingest our white label API to sell our supply to their guests. Next slide, please. Our go-to-market strategy is a mix of peer-to-peer sales, being at the right conferences like WiT, relying heavily on referrals combined with SEO and content. We know how our users evaluate software, having been in their shoes ourselves, and content and peer buy-in and referrals are 2 leading channels. Next slide, please. We believe there's a huge untapped market at the convergence of tours and activities and the creator economy, with new entrants, especially in the creator economy, growing at a rate of 17% since 2019. Next slide, please. With just over £100,000 invested and in 7 months, we've built and launched our in-market MVP. We have users on the platform today across Europe and North America, and we have integrations live with TripAdvisor, Shopify, and Coinbase, to name a few. Next slide, please. My co-founder and I have led teams around the world. We've worked with leading companies to deliver world-changing tours and technology. We know what it takes to ship software for millions of users and are backed by Europe's leading early-stage investors. We believe the future of travel is going to be built by small and medium entrepreneurs, those already in our sector and those in adjacent sectors. We believe the recovery to travel is necessary to include people in other sectors who have learned the hard lessons through COVID, such as e-commerce. Next slide, please. I'd love to tell you more about Indie and how we view the future of travel and commerce. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Janice. Next up, we've got Noah Bloom from RunGo. Noah, over to you.
Hi again, it's Noah Bloom from RunGo. Next slide, please. In Vancouver, Canada. I was in that room 2 years ago at WiT, inspired, and it's a thrill to share what RunGo has become in that time. How often do you give directions? Maybe, sorry, can you go back a slide, please? How often do you give directions, maybe via paper map or a Google Map link? What if instead you could offer a personalized local guide only showing your recommended businesses and partners? At RunGo, we make navigation and sharing local recommendations easier. Next slide, please. We do that with technology like recorded audio, turn-by-turn voice navigation, and augmented reality. AR has been a hot topic today. I'll add that AR is not the experience. Consider that it gives more context to your real-life experience or confidence that you're doing it right. It's a very popular part of our app, and it's not to be ignored. So even though we started as a running app, we've learned that in travel and hospitality, navigation is a huge challenge, not just for running. Hotels use our web concierge product and an app for audio navigated outdoor fitness. Next slide, please. There are over 70 hotels powering directions and fitness beyond the walls of their hotel with RunGo. Today, I wanted to share more about them, how they stand out, and how we help. Next slide, please. There's a lot going on at this resort in Hawaii and much to explore beyond the property. There are resort activity guides, dining recommendations, and promotions used to be disconnected and printed out. But now with 6 hotel guides on RunGo, it's all connected. They're seeing over 1,000 uses a day, upselling 68% more, and saving thousands of dollars a year just on paper. As you heard yesterday, Kaiulani from the team there is famous to guests who follow her tours. Next slide, please. Hilton Amsterdam knows that there's been a huge growth in runners and walkers in the past year. Just like Lo Lik Peng shared earlier today, plus the overwhelming vote for exercise and poll results and outdoor fitness. This is real and meaningful right now. This Hilton offers guests a variety of guided tours to follow, like 3, 5, 10-kilometer options. They all have audio navigation and local stories and themes like art drawn through your GPS track, crafted by local GPS artist Runbrand. See the fox there? It's the best way to see a new place. Just 1 week since their launch, tied to the big Amsterdam Marathon weekend, and it's getting great recognition in the press. Next slide, please. When you arrive at the Century Plaza in LA, perhaps drained from your trip, you can set out on an audio-guided, mindful walk outside. Let go and stay safe. And their concierge team is using our iPad app to create bespoke, annotated maps for their guests for exploring on their own. They understand the value of a personalized guest experience. Now they can deliver that digitally, not on paper. Next slide, please. Our business model is that hotels pay a monthly or annual subscription, and there's no cost to the guest or third-party ads. This is moving the needle right now at some of the most admired properties in the world, connecting travelers to the local knowledge of concierge teams to small local businesses. This is the future of how we convey local knowledge.
We need to move
if
on
this
to our
interests you,
third and
please
final
join us on our
startup,
mission and connect
which
on
is
LinkedIn.
Thrust Carbon.
Thank you.
And now, coming back to pitch for Thrust Carbon is Mark Corbett. Mark, welcome back, and please take us home.
Everything we do at Thrust Carbon is about making travel effortlessly green. We're helping the industry build back more sustainably because our vision is a world where our actions don't have to cost the earth. Next. So we are facing a global crisis with a ticking clock. COVID has decimated lives, and yet at the same time, air pollution is responsible for 3 times more fatalities. Transport is responsible for 16% of emissions. Next slide. And at the moment, we don't know what's going on. We don't see data. And when we do see data, it's inaccessible, it's inaccurate, based on averages, and really expensive to get hold of. What we do is then just encourage people to stop travel. And that's really not moving the needle forward. What we do at Thrust Carbon is entirely flip this model, focusing on live data, pinpoint accuracy, beautiful reports, and strategic recommendations that enable you to grow your profits, your business, whilst mitigating your emissions, driving towards lowest logical emissions per trip. And then offsetting carbon capture and sustainable aviation fuel is built in to our products. Next slide. And to give you that example I shared yesterday, over 50,000 tons of emissions from one client's travel program is the equivalent of over 33,000 mature oak trees burnt, which highlights the gravity of this crisis. Next slide. And we are able to capture all this because we are the carbon intelligence platform. What I mean by that is a software as a service that is focused entirely on reporting, reduction, and removal of emissions. At our core, we have our Thrust calculator, which turns travel data, so air, hotels, rail, car, ferry, all sorts, into that one clear number that we can start engaging with and driving down. And then we repurpose a lot of our products to display deeper integrations inside TMCs, OBTs, and one of the world's largest expense tools. Next slide. So to bring that to life, the way we operate is through annual subscriptions for enterprises. In our over our first 10 clients, our ACV is now up to $41,000 and rising. This exact product is then completely remodeled for the TMC and SME market, where we have a freemium model based on tiers of usage, and hence why we're really helping the industry move forwards. Next slide. Flipping this, we can then use our API data to inject it into the live booking environment at point of search, at point of booking. So we're completely reframing how the traveler can experience their emissions, actually understand what they are, and then receive our little nudges, our recommendations to start driving those behavioral change. Because even a 10% change on a global travel program is having a huge impact. Next slide. All of our products have a multitude of solutions. Right now, you can go to thrustcarbon.shop and see how we do our offsetting. Next slide. And we've been able to build this with a really remarkable team with over 30 years of founding experience in tech and travel, and some really awesome companies we've all worked for on the screen as well. Next slide. I think we all see the potential in tackling climate change, but in terms of purely financial, we're looking at a TAM of $13 billion, and that's really focused on just travel, which we've been talking about today. In January, we're going to be releasing our calculator for freight, shipping, and logistics, and then we can start moving into the entirety of supply chain capture and data management. Next, please. This is why you've been able to see us in some really awesome news outlets, including, of course, Web and Travel. And then to wrap up on my last slide, I'm delighted to share our first 10 clients that we've been working with on an enterprise scale. On the next slide, our first 10 TMCs, and with that, over 200 kind of SMEs that have now been onboarded. And that is why we are making travel effortlessly green.
Mark.
So thank you.
Great job to our finalists and to our amazing panel of judges. Thank you for being with us each step of the way.